Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, No Blind Spots, Build the Ultimate Sales Forecast with CRM. In this webinar today, we will show you how to build a corporate forecast at the individual, team, and organizational level, inspect your pipeline and ensure accuracy, mitigate your top risk factors, and show you how Sugar can improve visibility and predictability into your overall business. So to get started, I would like to do a few introductions. Today you have 4 Sugar CRM webinar hosts. First, I would like to introduce Christian Vetra, SVP and General Manager Platform. Next, you have Ellen True, Senior Director Product Management. Next, then you have James Harper, Senior Product Marketing Manager. And you have myself, your webinar host, Sarah Friedlander Garcia, Director of Content and Creative at Sugar. So with that, I would like to turn it over to James, who will take us through the agenda.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all of you for joining us today. We have a packed agenda today for all of you, so we'll jump in. So we have some really exciting things to share with you about forecasting, different models that you can use, and then setting up a committed forecast model, which I think is an area that you'll be really excited about. We'll talk a little bit more about inspecting and analyzing that forecast, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. To start with, though, we're going to be giving you a sneak peek on some things. So some of the things we're going to be talking about will be coming available in the future. However, this is our disclaimer that timelines can change. The way things look might be different when we bring them out into the product officially. But great things are in the works. So what you'll be seeing will be a mix of what's already available as well as what will be coming soon. And with that, I want to share some important things that come as to why we should even be thinking about forecasts, why forecasts are so important. We have a couple of really good analysts that share these good quotes. I won't read them for you, but the things that I want to point out is companies that do analysts or forecasting, I should say. Companies that forecast do a better job with sales attainment. They know where their weak spots are. They can navigate the challenges in their industries more effectively, and they do a better job of hitting their quotas than those that don't. The quote by Gartner, I think, is especially important. We're seeing a shift of people moving away from their intuition-based or kind of gut instinct on what it is that they're thinking they're going to hit, and they're going more towards data-driven outcomes. And that is mainly because they start to have access to the tools and resources that make that easier. And that's what we're going to be talking more about today, is how you can use Sugar to help you with your forecasts. One of the things that we say that's really important is be able to capture all forecasting inputs in one place. And some of the failures or the weak points that happen in forecasting is when you have different areas that you're saving your information. So if you're doing your quotes in Word docs or in spreadsheets, as opposed to in a CRM, or if you're working on your contracts in different areas, if you have spread out all of those important factors for forecasts in different areas, it makes it really hard for you to get a really clear picture of what actually is happening in your industry with your customers. And so our response to this is you really want to make sure you're capturing all of this into a robust CRM, and we think we have a great tool that makes that work. You can get all of these things all in one area that make it easy for you to create those quotes, develop the contracts, track your opportunities, and then you can start to get better data as to how you do in your lead conversion, opportunity conversion, and retention rates. You keep all of that in one place, and then your forecast data improves significantly. And then once you have that data, now it's a matter of how do you unlock that information in a way that's easier for you to be able to use that to grow your business. And that's what we'll be discussing now. And to help us with that, I'm going to pass it over to our thought leader and forecasting expert, Christian Vetra, to help us better understand how you can use this platform of Sugar to help you with your forecasting.
Thank you, James. Look forward to that. So first things, I want to take a quick look at working with terminology. In this business, there's a lot of terminology. Here at Sugar, we use our own terminology in our product. In each one of your sales organizations, I'm sure you have different variations of terminology. So I put down a few of the key terminology points and put a definition next to them. I'm not going to read them all out, but I'm going to make a point that it's useful to write these things down even in your own organization. As you start working with forecast and pipelines, different sales managers and different sales reps sometimes have different perspectives on what these terms mean. So it's useful to write them down so to make sure that everybody is talking about the same thing. So, we have terms like quota and target and attainment and opportunities versus pipeline versus forecast. All these things might mean different things to different people. So, so make sure you make your own little dictionary of these terms. We're going to send this out after the webinar so you could see kind of how we defined it, but make sure you adapt it to your own. So what we want to do is, and Elle and I are going to trade off a little bit. We're going to go through some forecasting models, some different ways of doing forecasting. We're going to go through our tools, our products at Sugar, and we're also going to talk about how we use them for effect. So it's kind of a fun thing for us to do. One, talk about the features and functions and what we're putting into the product, but also we want to give a perspective on how we think you should use it. So let's first go through some forecasting models. And this is not exhaustive. These are some commonly seen forecasting models. It's not everyone out under the sun, but these are some common ones that we see, and we also want to highlight the ones we're going to focus in on here. So the most common forecast model we see that somebody starts out with is we call it a weighted probability forecast. And basically that's a process where you put in opportunities with sales stages and you give them a percentage. We'll go through a little bit more of that in a second. The next model is an historical forecast, sometimes also called a statistical or mathematical model for organizations that have a lot of volume and kind of needs to calculate what the forecast is going to be based on the future. And then the last one, committed forecast. That's what we're going to talk about here today. That's when there's a high bar for accuracy. The organization really wants to hold every level of the organization accountable for a forecast. And some of you might have legal requirements where you have to have a defined forecasting model. If you're a public company, forecasting is really important, and we need to get it right. So first off, let's go through the first of the models that I started explaining. So we tried to do a little illustration here. Basically, we take the opportunities that make up our pipeline. So typically a sales organization would have possibly hundreds or thousands of opportunities. And in this model, each one of those opportunities is organized into a stage. And each stage has a fixed percentage where historically we know that if an opportunity is stage 1, we have, for instance, a 25% chance of taking it all the way to the end and winning it. So the weighted probability forecasting is really summing up all those opportunities in all those stages with their related percentages and coming up with a sum total of that. And let me introduce Ellen for the first time. We're gonna trade back and forth, as I said. I'm going to talk a little bit about the models and the way to do it, and Ellen's then going to show, how do we actually have these models and capabilities in our tools at Sugar, and how does it work?
Thank you, Christian. It's so nice to be here. I just want to say I spend most of my time designing and building the product, so it's just really exciting to get to share our perspective and give you that sneak peek of some of the things we're building, as well as a lot of stuff that has been in Sugar for years. So for this weighted probability method, it's pretty straightforward math. So we're just combining each opportunity sales stage and that associated probability in order to build the forecast. And one of the things that I love the most about Sugar is just how configurable it is. So admins can make as many sales stages and those associated probabilities as they need.
Then the next model that we wanted to highlight, we see a fair amount of our customers do this, basically gather up all the volumes of opportunities that we've won and lost over the past and calculate different things, calculate our average days to close, calculate our percentages of win, and then use those calculations to make a prediction of the future. Mostly that's done by customers who have really high volumes and where we just don't have time to deal with the individual opportunity. We have to deal with them as an aggregate, and we have enough numbers that things are statistically meaningful, and those predictions that we come up with actually can be used reliably.
Yeah, so Sugar's ability to do this hinges on two really cool pieces of tech. We have our CXP. It's a vault of every change that you've ever made to your data. And then we have time-based reporting that we refer to as advanced forecasting. So that aggregates and surfaces all that sea of data in a way that really gives meaning, right? So what you're seeing on the screen here is an example. This is a quarter-over-quarter analysis of your forecast. So it's looking backwards at that start, same day, and end time for quarters in the past, and that's helping you to approximate what your current and future quarters will produce.
So the last model that we want to focus in and kind of show how we actually do this is the committed forecasting model. So that's a model where we look at every individual opportunity and we evaluate how well it's performing in terms of our sales process, what kind of risks there are, how confident is the seller, how confident is the manager in the seller's judgment, and we make commitments together. We make commitments as individual salespeople, and we also make commitments as manager up the reporting chain to ultimately come to a number that we feel strongly as an organization that we're going to deliver inside a period. So we put together a little bit of sales arithmetic here, where we show, for instance, a couple of opportunities. We show 3 opportunities, that's our pipeline. And if you look at the last column, we simply have a toggle, a yes/no toggle. Is this opportunity committed to come in inside this period? We might have other opportunities that we think are going to come in this sales period, but we're not willing to commit it. So you see the middle opportunity is a no there, and we're not going to include that in our committed forecast. So we're going to sum up the 2 opportunities that are committed, and we see we have that subtotal of $17,800. Now, part of a committed forecasting process is also to use a sales rep's and a manager's judgment of making a call. In addition to the forecasted opportunities that's in our pipeline right now, depending where you are in a sales period, you make a call as to, based on your historical experience, what additional revenue do you think is going to come into the forecast? What bluebirds are going to come in? What kind of fast movers are going to enter the pipeline and close? You typically have historical experience with that in an organization, and you want to add that into the committed to come up with a forecast that represents where you are in the sales period and your confidence in what's going to happen next.
So now we're going to get into the first time you're really seeing at this webinar our forecasting worksheet. And so this is existing capabilities plus starting to get that sneak peek of what we're working on right now. So I'll just orient you briefly. At the top you see we're looking at the team forecast for one of our sales leaders, Sarah Smith. We're looking at her current quarter, and then on the right you can see her commitment, what that call that Christian's talking about, that aggregation call, and then her quota as well. And then we're looking at the opportunities that fall within her team right now. And so one interesting piece I want to point out is what we call this filterable metrics. It's this ribbon of sums and counts. And you'll see on the left there, we have forecast selected right now. So the forecast is for our current quarter, the opportunities that she's already won, her team has already won, or the ones that they're confident that they're going to win. So you see in that forecast stage column, include, right? These are the ones that her sellers have already said yes to. We're committing that this is going to come in. And then if you click another metric box, let's say opportunity or upside pipeline, then we see that we're looking at the total and the individual opportunities that we're a little less confident about. So this is just a different metric. This is a different piece of our forecast that we're wanting to move into forecast, but this is where we probably need to focus and a little bit more work to pursue these.
And with that, I'm back to ask all of you a question. So you've seen these different models of forecasting, and we want to know, which one do you typically use? And so we have quite a few of you here today. We're excited to hear from our customers which forecasting method or model you use on a typical basis. Or maybe you're not really sure which model you're ready to apply yet, and so you've come here to learn more about the different types of models that you can run with sugar. As you can see, we have all of these options that you can do within the CRM, within our platform, and so it's a good opportunity to find out, okay, this is the one that I want to use based off of where I am in my either my business maturity or overall business capabilities.
Okay, we've got about 75% of everyone that's voted, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'm going to show the results then.
Excited to see the results. Oh, look at that. And that's pretty common for those who are forecasting. We do see many organizations using the weighted probability forecast. Historical forecast is good. The committed forecast is where we're starting to see more and more people driving to. And so it's exciting to see that we have good representation there. And I anticipate in the coming quarters and years ahead, we'll see more of a shift towards the committed forecast. And then for those of you who are still working on it, we're glad that you're here. You'll be able to find the forecasting model that works best for you. And then one of the things that we'll talk about later is an opportunity to meet with one of our experts here at Sugar to figure out how we can help you with your forecasting. And with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Christian.
Great. That was fun, James. That's nice to see. Nice to see that so many are kind of working with the committed forecast model, because that's where we're spending a lot of our time. So the things we're showing here today are going to probably be the most valuable to the people who are using that model. And some of the things we're kind of giving you a sneak peek on. Some of them are coming out in our Sugar 12 release that's just about to be released. And then each quarter for the rest of this year, we're going to be rolling out additional capability related to forecasting. And some of the things we're showing you today is a preview of that, but some of them you're going to be using as soon as Sugar 12. So let's go through and show what it takes to set up a committed forecasting model. So core to that is maintaining a forecast cadence. That is intended to be a very structured process that repeats religiously, usually on a weekly basis. Some organizations have it on a bi-weekly basis, but basically the way it works is on a fixed schedule of dates. We start at the individual contributor. We start at the sales representative and have that sales representative inspect their pipeline, confirm their close dates, make their inclusions in the forecast and exclusions to the forecast, and then make a call. And we'll go through what that call entails in a little bit, but they make a call that basically I'm committing that if my quota, for instance, for this period was $1 million, I'm committing to $800,000. I'm sure about that, and I'll sign my name to that. I'll sign it in blood, and move that up to my sales manager. And then typically what happens is maybe a day after, the sales manager will sit down with their team. They'll go through that pipeline. They'll inspect it in more detail. The sales reps has to defend it. And then in turn, the sales manager will make a call up the food chain, to, in this case, maybe the VP of sales, right? And so forth and so on. So inspect the pipeline, make the call, get it out to a cadence. And ultimately, these numbers are presented to the CEO, the CFO, and sometimes also to your board of directors that really, typically are very interested in how revenue is coming along inside every sales period. So Ellen will take you through a little bit of some of the tools we have in Sugar to support that process.
Yep. So first things first is you want to get your sales organization's reporting hierarchy fully reflected in Sugar. So it's a really basic thing. You just do that by connecting every seller with their manager using this reports to field that's shown here. This is back to our forecasting screen. You'll see at the top here, we've got this picker, right? So Sarah Smith is a manager, and what she's seeing on her screen is all of the opportunities that belong to her or her subordinates, but she's also able to drill, right? So she's able to click Max, and then on the right you see where she's able to look at just Max's opportunities and not just drill into his individual deals, but see that same ribbon of metrics for Max. So it's able to both give her that aggregate view of how her entire organization is doing and performing, because that's the quote, that's the commitment she's going to need to make is for her entire team, but then also being able to look individually as she's meeting one-on-one as part of that cadence that Christian described.
So the next thing that's we mentioned it already, the process of inspecting the forecast. I want to go through some of the elements that you typically look for and that we're going to help you see inside of Sugar when you're working with opportunities in the pipeline. So some of the common things you do in terms of inspection, like sellers will inspect their own pipeline, and managers' job is to inspect the sellers to make sure we don't miss anything. The worst thing you can experience in the sales organization is to spend, maybe months and months on an opportunity, and then at the very end realize you missed some basic sales qualification element that really prevented you from ever doing business. And in the process, you set expectations wrong, and you wasted a lot of time. So inspecting the forecast, the individual opportunity, look at the opportunity elements. Are we following the sales process? Do we know why we're committing to a committed opportunity? Can you defend that? Why is it that you think you're going to get this deal coming in this quarter? If we think you're going to get this deal coming in this quarter, have you sent the customer their contracts? Are you past legal review, or you at least started the legal review process? And do we know enough about the customer and their needs to really expect a sale this quarter? The same thing, we also want to know that the seller is speaking to a broad enough set of the customer's employees. If a seller is speaking to one person that's trying to walk through a sales purchase in an organization, if it's a large purchase, that's probably not right. And we want to be able to see, sorry for my cold behavior here, we want to be able to see that we're talking to the right people, that we know the right people, and we're engaging with them. Then lastly, we want to know that what's our interactions cadence? When do we speak to them last? When are we planning to speak next? Does the pace of those interactions meets where we're saying we are in the sales stage? So all these things are part of the inspecting of the forecast and the individual opportunities, and getting us ready to make a call, making the individual sales rep ready to make a call, and making sure the manager can be confident to make their call in return. So let's take a look. What do we have in Sugar to support this process?
That's right. So one of the biggest questions we're always trying to answer using this cadence, this pipeline inspection, is what happened? Why did the forecast drop by $90,000 over the weekend, right? It's who moved the cheese. And so this I want to highlight first. We're going to step through a lot of pieces on this screen. This opportunity review screen, pipeline review, is something we're spending lots and lots of time and sleepless nights working on right now. This visualization is part of it. So on the left, you can see what our forecast as it stood 7 days ago. And then each of these green bars represents increases to that forecast. It was a new deal. It was a deal that we pulled into this quarter from last quarter, right? Something like that. And then every red bar are those decreases. That's that $90,000 that dropped, right? It's things that slipped, that we pushed out of the quarter, things that we lost, things that, the value of a single opportunity has dropped because it turns out they didn't want that add-on or those additional seats. So the final thing, yellow, is what we've won in the last week. That's good news. And then the blue bar on the right, that's our existing forecast as of today. So really helping to dig into what happened and not just looking at it in aggregate, which is super powerful, but then you can click on each one of these boxes to see a list of the actual opportunities that make them all up. So not just what happened to 90,000, well, it slipped, it decreased, we lost some, but which ones did we lose and which ones slipped out, and who do I need to go talk to about why they're slipping things on the last day of the quarter. Another huge value of pipeline inspection is, as Christian said, testing that forecast. Are these deals real? Do I believe them? I'm about to go put my name, as he said, in blood for what I'm committing to contribute to our quarter, and I need to really understand what's happening with all of these. Not just what's happening and where's the risk, but also which ones need help and focus, right? I think pipeline inspection we can think of as being identifying risk and looking for something you don't believe, but it's also a great opportunity to just be able to push in resources and help on the opportunities that are close but need a little more focus, right? So it's bringing that sales leader's experience down to their sellers and being able to actually produce more revenue in the end, not just get a more sure idea of what we will or won't lose. So, we're trying to prevent the surprises. We're trying to maximize our wins, but the sales org does not want to spend all of their time going through each and every deal over and over and over again as part of these cadences. So a big way that our platform can help you do that work is Sugar stepping in to highlight that risk for you and surface changes right here on the screen. So, for this opportunity, the sales stage has progressed. We have a little green arrow showing you that positive change, but this one's value dropped. So we have a little red decrease in value. So highlighting all the risks here. And then you'll also notice this prediction column. That's our machine learning prediction of every opportunity's likelihood to be won. It's based on all the data that's in your CRM, every call, every activity that's happening, but also leveraging external firmographic information, what we can tell about this organization and how it matches up with our ICP, right? So another really nice addition to highlight risk. And then next to it, you see these little purple icons. These are brand new. And so this is a different machine learning model that's highlighting when the AI is looking across everything we have, all those same inputs I just described, in order to make a prediction on not just if we think it's going to be won, but when we think it's going to be won. And when our prediction is grossly off, you're saying it's going to close March 22nd, but our prediction says, and that's not going to close for another 2 quarters, just based on the pace of things going on and what we know about this customer, right? So again, highlighting that risk right there on the screen. So that you don't, again, have to spend your time going through every single opportunity over and over again. And what we hear when we talk to customers is that there's a fair amount of repetition. Oh, we talked about that last week, let's talk about it again, right? But we want to have our sellers spending their time selling. So here we're surfacing the risk, and then as soon as you see something you want to drill into on this team call or on this cadence, you can click on it, a focus drawer, which is really nice new addition in Sugar. And that focus drawer slides in and lets you zoom in on just that one opportunity. You can look at the timeline dashboard on the right, see every conversation that's happening, or more notably the ones that are not happening, right? You can make adjustments to your line items, check on what they've already bought from you, all manner of information to drill in and poke at that particular opportunity to test it, all while staying in your current experience. So as soon as you close out that drawer, you're right back to moving on to the next opportunity.
Thanks, Ellen. And Ellen, you said it. There's a lot of repetition when every week you go through your pipeline currently. In most organizations, you probably recognize this. You go through the cadence, and you look at the same opportunities over and over and over again. And if you have a cadence like this, you're spending a lot of time every week on making sure that you have a good forecast. And it's really exciting to basically see those highlights that Ellen was showing. How do we quickly see what's moved for good or for bad, and focus in on that, and not waste your time on the same things that hasn't really changed since last week. Okay, so once we have done our inspection, we next want to make a forecast call. We want to get ready to make a forecast call. So we have our pipeline. We know how much we have in our committed pipeline. Say, for instance, we have our $800,000 out of $1 million, and we have a month left in the quarter. We also then want to make a call for how much more do we think we're going to be able to bring in that I could commit to on top of my existing calls. What do I think I'm also going to bring in the next month? So there we have some new tools to do that. And Ellen will basically look, how can we learn from history, and how could we actually make that call inside of Sugar?
That's right. So I'm going to get to show you a couple of other tabs that are on this forecasting experience. So here we're looking at the analytics tab. So we're plotting your target, see that in orange across the top. Your won opportunities, hopefully ticking up steadily as your quarter progresses. Your forecasted opportunities, so that's those committed ones, as well as the ones that are won, also should be some combination of ticking up, but hopefully steady as you get better at knowing which you're going to win. And then your team commitment over the course of the quarter. And so these are all the components that an experienced seller is going to be combining and understanding when they're setting their commitment, they're making that call. And then in purple, we're layering in yet another tool that helps inform that commitment. So this is another machine learning forecasting prediction. This model combines what we already know about those existing opportunities, everything we already talked about, where we're looking at firmographic information, we're looking at the conversations you're having, how many contacts are on this opportunity. The model is leveraging all of that data about all of your known opportunities, But depending on your business, you probably have a fair number of opportunities that you know will be born and won in the same quarter, right? When we talk to sales leaders, that's where this commitment, that call becomes so important. It's, yes, here's the deals that I know are happening. These are the ones that I can be sure of, but I know from experience that there's going to be ones that come in late. We call them bluebirds here at Sugar, things that are run rate, things that happen. They're born and then they get won, and everyone has a great Friday night at the bar, right? And so this model is exciting to me because it's taking into account everything we know about your opportunities and the details that your sellers might have a hard time tracking, but then also the historical success, the historical run rates, how many of these kinds of bluebird opportunities do you typically have, and then aggregating all of that to give our predictions. So it's doing, in essence, what your most experienced sellers know from the years that they've been working selling for your organization. It's giving that same level of insight and same approach to even your second day on the job sellers. So I think it's a pretty nice tool to be able to lend that kind of experience and looking across all the data. Again, just to inform that next step. So if this is where you're actually taking all that information we just showed you, letting that platform do the work for you, and now you're making your call, your commitment, right? So this is available. You'll see where I'm making my commitment right at the top. This is available not just to sales leaders, but all the way down your organization. So every seller and every sales leader throughout the organization making their call, their personal commitment of what they or their team will be delivering in a sales period that aggregates all the way up that reporting hierarchy. Finally, as your sales org is making those forecasting calls over time, we really need to understand the accuracy of those calls. And I think those who are already forecasting learn over time, who are your sandbaggers? How do we compensate for our consistent sandbaggers? But ideally, each seller in your org is becoming more and more predictable. Sugar tracks how your commitments compare to your actual results so that we can help your forecast that you are ultimately delivering to your board become more and more reliable, which I think gets back to that original point that companies that focus on forecasting and forecasting accurately are more predictable and have better results.
Okay, thanks, Ellen. So we're going to wrap it up and basically cover some key takeaways that we try to convey in this session. So we have 6 key takeaways that we just want to quickly go through. So as James said at the beginning, you're much more likely to meet your revenue goals if you have a planned and a disciplined forecasting process. Second, as we like to say here at Sugar, let the platform do the work. Use Sugar and engage the platform in the forecasting process. Don't cheat with Excel spreadsheets. Put it all into Sugar and force that through, and it'll deal with one set of numbers. It'll work better. Then set up the cadence. Make sure we have that consistent weekly or bi-weekly cadence where you do it every single period. Do it the same way, follow it from the individual sellers all the way up to the highest interested leader. Make sure you do the inspection process. There is risk to every opportunity, and you want to make sure that everybody is clear on that risk, and you share the burden of inspecting the opportunities, making sure you help each other spot weaknesses in your forecast. And then hold each other accountable. If you make a commitment, that's a serious thing. Not like you're not going to be mean to anybody, but you want to take it seriously and make an accountable commitment to what you think you're going to do. This, we want to make sure our forecasts are treated seriously. Then last, like in any mature process, make sure you understand how you're doing and work to continuously refine the process. We could always do things better. Look at how accurate our forecasts are. If we're not satisfied with how accurate they are, maybe go back and refine your inspection process, put some more criteria in there, make it better, and your forecast will become more accurate. So those are 6 key takeaways. James, do you want to cover next steps?
I do. And special thanks to Ellen and Christian for walking us through that. We have a couple of exciting opportunities for all of you for joining us today. One is we want your feedback, and Ellen is especially eager to hear your feedback. So as you're working on your forecasts or want to get some ideas on what we can do to make forecasting even easier to do within our platform. We think it's pretty great already, but we know we're always in the state of improving. Send us an email at products@sugarcrm.com. And we'd love to set up a session where you can share your thoughts or ask some questions, and we can dive into that on a product level. The other opportunity or invitation that we have is we'd love to help you set up your forecasts. So if you reach out to sales@sugarcrm.com, we'd love to set up a briefing with you where we could spend 30 minutes to talk about what does forecasting look like for you in your organization. So some exciting things here that we're excited for all of you to take advantage of, and is our way of being able to say thank you for joining us today. And with that, that leads us to our Q&A. So Sarah, do we have any questions in yet?
We do already. This is my favorite part of the webinar. So I'm not sure exactly what this was referring to, but there was a question if we need SugarCell Premier to have some of the forecasting options. Can we speak to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and thanks for asking. So you can do some of the forecasting in Cell Advanced, but all of the features that we've talked about today are available in Cell Premier. And so that's what we recommend. Is if you're looking for those really robust forecasting features or capabilities, you'll want to look at Cell Premier.
There's a refinement to that one. It's mostly the Premier will cover the analytics part, the graphs and the predictions in the future. A lot of the pipeline inspection is going to be available in all our editions. So it's really, if you want to look at what's different in Premier, the charts of graphs is probably the ones that is distinct and Premier dependent.
And there was another question going back to some of the features that or screenshots that we'd shown in this presentation, if all these features are available now or if they'll be released in a future version.
Ellen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so there's a combination there. There's a good number of things that are available in 12, but we did give you those sneak peeks. So everything that you saw here is things that we're either working on right now or plan to be worked on in the next year. Back to that forward-looking statements, plans can change, but no, not everything you saw is already in 12.
There's another question. Will these features be available in Sugar Enterprise?
That's a good question. So let's see. Ellen, do you want to take that one too?
Yeah, so I think, look, for all of these, which edition has which things, I think that your best bet to get really detailed is that 30-minute briefing option, just so that we're all speaking the same language and on the same page. There are a lot of pieces of this that are in enterprise. You can do pipeline inspection, you can make your commitments and roll them up. All of that will be there. But the pieces that are not there is back to sort of Christian's summation, that change visualization, the deltas and changes in the screen itself, that metric bar across the top, those things are Premier, not in enterprise.
And those are all the questions that have come in. So I'd like to thank, first of all of my my co-presenters with me, Christian, Ellen, James. Thank you for taking the time today. And thank you for our audience for tuning in. And I'd like to wish everyone a good rest of their day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.